Hey y'all, welcome to Stivers Homestead. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jen.
And welcome to our new garden. If you've been following us along on Facebook, which if you're not on the Stiv Tribe, you need to be in the Stiv Tribe. Just search it up, it's a group. It's where we can all hang out and talk a little bit more freely because it's Facebook. But we've been working on this garden all week.
Yeah.
Right? So it started with nothing. It was just straight grass. We had a couple trees over here, but really this is just where the dogs roamed. And we had decided that we wanted the garden a little closer to our home.
Yep. So when we moved here a year and a half ago, it was in the fall, and that next spring we did all that we could to set ourselves up to at least grow some food. We were able to do that with the kitchen garden, which you all have seen is right by the house, right outside the front porch. We grew in the ground last year, which was kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
And so this year we knew that we had to make big efforts to actually get our full, like, permanent garden for this new home that we have, and we worked all week on it. and we had help, which was awesome. We had some Airbnb guests come in this weekend. Oh, it's windy.
Windy, hey yo.
And they helped us so much, so big thank you to them. We had a wonderful time.
It was.
But you know, it's been me and him, and then we had them for some help. It's been a long week, a lot of work, a lot of sun up to sundown days, but we can finally say that it is almost complete.
Yeah, like 99% done of building, and we're ready to show you. All right, we're gonna lead off with the entrance. So we got our two green stalks here, and tell them about it, babe.
So this is actually the last thing that we did after the garden was done, but these were in our greenhouse that was over there. We kept them in there all winter. We brought them out in the summer, but we had to find a new creative way to put them into the garden. So we decided to put them on both sides of the gate, and they're just gonna be beautiful. This one's full of strawberries. That one has some stuff in it, but I think we're just gonna redo it, maybe do some radishes or some carrots. But I think they look really good here at the entrance.
And look at these beautiful strawberries. They're coming back to life, and we're getting very close to strawberry time. All right, now the greenhouse. Y'all had seen this in the previous video, but we added the windmill here. My friends at Pine Knot Family Farm actually got us that when they were visiting, so it's finally got its home. And you come on in, and it's starting to get some life in here. So Jen has her chocolate mint, which is starting to come back.
It looks awful, but it'll be fun.
Yeah, all herbs do at this time, but you can see the little green all coming back in here, and that just means she's coming back.
So our friends that were at the Airbnb, they actually brought us these beautiful flowers. They're called Sweet Williams. She said they're native to Virginia, which is where they're from. So we've got a ton of these that we're gonna put everywhere, and I think they're gonna be really beautiful. She said that they stay very short, so you can put them around your plants like tomatoes or wherever you want to put them, and they won't get too tall and shade anything. And then she also brought me this lavender, which was honestly the best gift I could have gotten, because I struggle so much starting lavender from seed. I've done it one time, but this year I really didn't want to. I just didn't want to fool with it, and I didn't know where I was going to get it from, so it was like she read my mind. And I can't wait to put this in one of those beds back there. These are all of our peas that we told you we started inside. They all came up but one, so that's fantastic. The reason I started them inside was because we didn't have soil in any of the beds yet. So now that I have all these, we're going to transplant them to the big long bed, which we'll show you, but then I'm going to direct sow the rest. But this is how many?
24 came up. 24.
And then we also started a Roselle Hibiscus, and we've got two of those, so those are going to go somewhere. But I'm excited. We've got some green in the greenhouse, some bought, some started.
We also got us a little space heater. This thing's pretty cool. It actually even has a temperature gauge to tell you what the current temp is, but this will help once we start getting some of those colder nights, and this is really full of summer crops that you want to just keep it down on the chilly area. So we just got this little space heater here, and Jen is very proud of her organization. Here's the thing about Jen and I. She's very organized. I'm very not organized. It's straight chaos when I do stuff. I never put things back where I found it, and it's a problem. Believe me, my stepdad was all over me about it with tools. I know it's a problem. But she's very organized, and she's done very well in here, and I've been threatened death if I mess it up.
In order for me to like be successful in the garden, I need organization. Like I need to be able to enjoy where I'm spending my time.
And I get it. I do get it. So yeah, so all of our pots, this is like our up potting station, and then also where we can just start stuff. But we got all of our cups. We like to have like a bucket that we put our soil in. So if we want to add any fertilizer, but most importantly, just getting it wet before we put it in there. That's what we like to do. And it's a huge, big area, big window. So when it's nice and hot, we'll get a nice breeze. And the plants that the storm couldn't kill.
Yeah, I mean, it killed some of them.
It did.
But these are our cold crops that we showed you. We started inside. Was it back in the end of January or maybe the beginning of February? Some cauliflower and
some lettuce,
cabbage,
kale.
And some of them are still very good. So we're gonna just go ahead and put them in the beds because they'll be fine. And that's exciting. So we don't have to completely start over. And then we've got our artichokes down here, Jerusalem artichokes that somebody sent us, and they're just kind of overwintering, and hopefully we can find a permanent spot for them and they'll do something good.
More organization, all of our trays organized by size and style. I mean, I'm not like allowed to even work in here until she does, until she like allows it. We also have all of our root pouches, which I'm excited to get those filled up. Those are just great if like you want to put an herb in it, you know, that contains it. But you can grow tomatoes, peppers, literally anything that you want to in those root pouches. So before we leave the greenhouse, Jen had the good idea, because if y'all remember correctly, I told you we were not putting the raised bed back in the greenhouse. She's like, let's put it on the side of the greenhouse. And I was like, that's a fantastic idea. So we already had this bed made, literally just had to get some 2x4s and screw it to the side. I know the one thing that you all may be thinking, because I did, is like what happens when you need to change out the plastic. It really won't be that big of a deal to do so. So we wasn't overly concerned. But I think you're thinking maybe flowers in there?
Probably flowers, maybe sweet potatoes. We'll just have to see.
Yeah. And now the beds. So I think the last time y'all saw this garden, we had these two done. I don't know if we had any more. So we got these two completed. That's a 6 foot gap, then a 12-foot gap for the tractor, and then 2 more with 6 foot. And then we got all the way to the 5th one complete, and we ran out of dirt. We do have more on order, but we'll at least get one more, because if you're a little OCD like I am, kind of an oxymoron, right? I'm not organized, but I'm a little OCD. Like, that doesn't even make any sense, right? But it's killing me having this 5th bed just sitting here all alone. It's like it's not complete, which it's not. But we'll probably get that soil this week, and then we'll get that 6th bed built. I think the good news we're finding out, though, is we might be able to get more beds than just 6.
Maybe. And if you're interested on the details of the raised beds, we do have a video that was from last week that we talk about the measurements, how long, how wide, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll make sure that's linked down below. But just look at it, y'all. Look at all this growing space, including the herb beds in the back. I mean, it's really starting to come to life, and we're super excited.
So when we got done, we decided to go ahead and get some trellises up. There's 3 here, but it's really kind of 2.5 because at the end they're overlapped. But these are cattle panel trellises with the T-posts, and they're sitting in the middle of the bed, and they're all tied together so that they'll be sturdy. But the reason we did that is for peas. So I know that looks like a lot of peas, and it is. I have had a goal for like 4 months now for this to be a huge pea year. Peas are a vegetable that we eat all the time and that we never grow enough to be able to preserve. And then in past years we've done sugar snap peas, which are so tasty and so sweet, but they never make it into our home because there's not enough, and what's there we just eat in the garden.
Right.
So these are going to be for shelling peas. We're gonna probably grow 100 pea plants, and that should be enough.
That number keeps going up. It was 50 this morning.
There's room for 100, so we're gonna grow 100. So that should be enough for us for a year's worth of peas. Now we'll either can them, freeze dry them, or a mixture of both.
Probably both.
And I'm really excited about it. It's like my main goal this year is to have a good pea year.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because you think about canning, that would be more for like if you want a side of peas. And then the freeze dry would be for like soups and stuff because you can toss them right into the soup. So both are going to be very, very good choices. One thing you may notice in this video is the soil is not all the way to the top of the beds, and there's a reason for that. Yes, if you remember me saying, about 10 inches is about the amount of soil you need to grow really anything that you want. Now here's the one thing about raised beds. 12 inches is your ideal height, at least in our opinion. That's where you want to be. But when you're growing in a raised bed, a root doesn't go straight down, right? So it doesn't go all the way down and say, hey, there's my 10 inches, I'm good to go. It's going to go down and around, and it's going to circulate everywhere. I remember one year when we pulled up a loofah gourd, it wrapped itself around a bed like 7 times, you know, so there's plenty of room to do that stuff. But to my point, we leave about, I don't know, 2-3 inches of space for mulch. We put mulch on top of our beds. We're probably actually just going to use pine shavings this year. It's working out really well with the garlic. But that helps prevent splashback. So whenever you have your plants on and it rains, you don't want that dirt splashing back up on the leaves, because that can actually cause disease and eventually kill your plants. So you want something just laying on the dirt to help protect that.
So it's also not done in the way of what you see. So once we get our plants in, or it's closer to time to put plants in or transplant, we're actually going to put 4 cattle palm trellises on each one, not the peas, but on all the other beds. There's going to be 4 arches that go all the way down, spaced out evenly, so that we can also grow stuff up like cucumbers or small melons, stuff like that, just to save some space, because we want to grow all the things, and the only way to do that is to get creative and go up sometimes.
And we'll probably be bringing back to our garden the pallet trellises. Yeah. So I will link that down below. That was back at our old place, but I built pallet trellises, just 2 pallets together, and you make like a flower bed on the bottom of it. And that was like the best thing for our cucumbers. We grew awesome cucumbers on that. So we'll probably be putting a few of those on the end of the bed as well. So what may have seemed really weird by getting that water spigot right there, now makes a lot of sense. So last year I was dragging around about 500 foot of water hose all the way over to the other end, and it was a nightmare to have to do that. You know, the plants did not get watered as much as they should have, just because it was so difficult to do so. Nonetheless, say when it was time to mow, I had 500 foot of frickin' water hose I had to move around. So here, this is gonna be a great way for us to be able to water easily. We also have water to our greenhouse, and we have electric because it's close to our home. We can run a short extension cord to it. The goal though
is drip tape. Now, that you're probably still thinking that's crazy. It's going to take you forever to water all these beds, and it will. It'll take a good amount of time, and that'll just be a season that we have to weather through the storm. But eventually we do want drip tape, so we'll have to figure out how to do that. That's something we've never done, but I'm sure it's not too complicated, and I think it would be a really good addition to the beds and save us a lot of time in the summer.
Yeah, I heard our friends over there at Haas got some pretty good drip irrigation. Might be checking. All right, and here are all of the herb beds. So there's 6 of them in total, 5 by 5 each. Huge growing space to let herbs just completely take over. So now Miss Herb Lady, the medicinal herb lady of our dreams, finally has her beds. What are you putting in these 6?
So I've never really had like a permanent home for my herbs. I've just kind of had to stick them in, and then others take over, they get choked out, and then they reseed all over the ground. I'm not saying that still won't happen, but this is a much better option. So we've got 6 beds. It was really hard to narrow it down to 6 herbs, but there's still other places we can sneak herbs in, and I'm sure we still will, especially in those root pouches. That would be a really good idea. We can just stick back here. So the first one's gonna be all calendula. The second one's gonna be our comfrey. We just have to move the root over here. The third is going to be
chamomile, and then lavender, rosemary,
and then basil. So just a regular basil. I tried Thai holy basil last year, and I absolutely hated it. So that's actually up there in the kitchen garden. I'm gonna rip that out because I do not want it to come back. This is just gonna be a regular kitchen, normal basil. So here's your shot from the backside and the beauty of what this garden is going to be. What do you think, Zena? Zena. So here's the thing about Jen and I. We garden because we love it. We garden because we want to grow our own food. But one of the biggest things for us is we garden because we like being in it. Yeah. We love hanging out in our garden and making it a place that we're having fires and late night gatherings with our friends and family and stuff like that. And just making sure it's a spot to be. So this spot is close to our home, and that's a helpful item for gardening. But we also have started testing out the fire ring. We've been cooking over the fire and having a great time. And then we have an awesome shot of our animals. When we were way over there or on the porches, you can't really see them. And here we can sit and just watch. And it's really awesome. And it's good too, because now we spend hours in the garden every summer, but now we also get to be in the garden, tending to our plants, making sure we're growing food. And then we also get to keep an eye on our animals if something were to happen. You know, if hawks fly over, it's a really good thing to be able to have your eyes on both. And speaking of hawks, I think we might have already told y'all, right where we're sitting, a bald eagle flew over our head. Well, it's been happening over and over. Yeah. I think he's found home over by the river, so he's kind of hanging out. He hasn't bothered anyone. The guineas and the goats, they know to get everyone inside. So they're doing a good job with it, but we are still watching very closely.
Yeah, majestic though. I've never seen one in the wild like that, only at zoos, and it is beautiful.
Yeah.
But I looked at Ellie, I was like, hold on, Ellie. might be picking you up. One last thing I want to talk about with the you're probably gonna hear some buzzing. That's our mold things. One last thing I want to talk about with these garden beds is you can tell they're not level, right? We're a very sloping land. If you live in Kentucky, or at least in the eastern side, you know what I'm talking about. There's no flat land. So you've grown to just learn how to flow with the land. So we built everything right on it so it flows well. And we're not gonna have an issue with washing out. That's one cool thing with the raised beds. It holds that in very well and you don't have that washout of dirt. So it'll be fine in that area. Wow.
So if you're new with us or if you've been following us for a long time, it's a real big difference from where we came from. We've had a garden for 7 years now, I think. Even when we lived in North Carolina, we tilled up some dirt and threw some green beans in.
Yeah.
It's just a really big passion of ours to be in it and to be able to grow our own food. So at our past house, we maxed out every square inch that we could, grew every single thing that we could, but it still just felt like it wasn't really big enough for us.
Yeah.
We want to make a full-time job out of it. We don't want it to just be a hobby. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's what we do, and we want to feed our family right from home. So this is a huge, like, 5 to 7 year goal for ours, to be able to now have this big permanent garden with these beautiful raised beds and this beautiful yard, looking at our animals, looking at our beautiful house. And it's been a long journey, but it's really cool to get there. So I say that to encourage you that if you're still in the beginning stages and you're dreaming of it, just takes time and you can get there.
Yeah, and on top of all of that, I've enjoyed seeing her and the children light up over this garden. They were not excited about the garden I built last year, and I understand. It was way too hot over there, way too far, and too difficult to work. Seeing them light up and get excited about gardening again, it feels good right here. So hopefully, like this, you had a canning video in the middle of it, but hopefully like this week of gardening videos that you've been seeing from us and getting this stuff built up is giving you the drive to go do it yourself. Like we always preach, don't think that you always have to have a garden this size yet, right? Like it could always be a goal, but as long as you're putting something in the ground, no matter what it is, pots, root pouches, whatever it may be, just get excited about gardening and get excited to grow your own food, because it is so important to do so. If y'all haven't subscribed, make sure to down below.
We love y'all.
Until the next one. Bye.